Enoch was not just taken by God. He may have walked through time itself. Imagine a man thousands of years ago, not tasting death, carried beyond the limits of this world, beholding visions of heaven, the end of days, and the future of mankind. The Book of Enoch whispers secrets long hidden, prophecies of the Great Flood, a timeline of history, and visions that connect directly to Revelation. Why would a single man be shown the entire destiny of humanity? What did he see when the veil of time was torn away? And why have so many voices tried to silence the truth of his visions? In this video, you will uncover the shocking prophecies of Enoch, explore his journey through the heavens, and discover why many believe he was the first true time traveler. You will see how his words align with the Bible, how his visions mirror the end times, and why his message carries hope and warning for us today. If you have ever wondered whether time itself could bend under the hand of God, or whether one man could stand as witness to past, present, and future, then stay with me. Because the truth of Enoch is not just history, it is a call to prepare your own soul. What do you believe? Was Enoch truly shown the future of our world? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let this message resonate. And if these revelations stir your spirit, support this channel with a like and subscribe, so together we can keep uncovering the hidden wisdom of Scripture. Enoch, the man God took up without death. Enoch was unlike any other man recorded in Scripture. The Bible declares with a single thunderous sentence, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Imagine the wonder of that moment. He did not die. He did not fade into dust as all flesh must. He was lifted beyond the grave, carried into the presence of the eternal. This alone sets him apart from every generation of humanity. Alongside Elijah, he stands as one of only two in the sacred record who never tasted death. But there is more hidden here than a miraculous escape. His disappearance is a door into mystery, a testimony that his walk with God opened realms closed to ordinary men. He became a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a living sign that faith can elevate a man beyond the limits of time. When people today dismiss his story as myth or exaggeration, they overlook the deeper truth. The life of Enoch is not just about his ending, but about how he lived, every day walking with God. That walk carried him beyond the boundaries of mortality. In our world, men chase fame, wealth, and power, yet Enoch sought none of these. His story reminds us that the greatest victory is not over kingdoms or riches, but over the fear of death itself. His reward was not a crown of gold, but the embrace of God. Think about how different this is from the heroes of history we celebrate. Conquerors, emperors, inventors. Their glory fades, their empires crumble, their inventions are surpassed. But the man who simply walked faithfully with God still echoes thousands of years later. This is a healing truth for us, that your value is not measured by the world's applause, but by the unseen steps you take each day in faith. And here lies a challenge. If God lifted Enoch, what might he be calling you to rise above today? Share your thoughts, for this is where debate begins. Is Enoch's life a historical account, a symbolic prophecy, or both? Your voice matters, and in reflecting together, we learn how this ancient story still speaks into our age. The heavenly journey, through realms of light and fire. When the hidden Book of Enoch unveils his journey, we see not a simple disappearance, but an epic ascent. He describes passing through layers of the heavens, guided by mighty angels, beholding rivers of fire, storehouses of the winds, chambers of the stars. He saw the throne of the great glory, dazzling beyond the sun, and the place where the souls of the righteous rest until the day of judgment. Imagine standing there, where time itself bends, where past and future collapse into one eternal vision. To a man of ancient days, such visions must have seemed impossible, yet modern science now whispers of dimensions unseen, of multiverses and quantum realities where time does not flow in a straight line. Could it be that what Enoch saw was not mere vision, but a journey into the very fabric of creation? Consider how every generation dreams of transcending time, from science fiction tales of wormholes to Einstein's theories of relativity. The human heart longs to pierce the veil. Yet long before our equations, Enoch walked into it. His eyes witnessed cosmic truths our telescopes only begin to grasp. This is not just mysticism, it is revelation. It suggests that to walk with God is to step into the rhythm of eternity, where time is no longer a cage, but a pathway. Think of the lesson here. The heavens Enoch saw were not simply to satisfy curiosity, they carried a message for those still bound to earth. He returned with visions of judgment and mercy, of a coming Messiah, of an end when justice would flow like a river. He became a prophet, warning and guiding so that men might prepare. And here is the healing note. His visions were not to terrify, but to awaken, to call people back to righteousness. Even today, his journey speaks. Are we walking blindly through time, or are we lifting our eyes to eternity? In a world obsessed with speed, deadlines, and the ticking of the clock, Enoch's journey is a call to remember that time itself is held in God's hand. What if the hours of your life are not chains, but opportunities to step into eternity through faith? This is where his message meets us, healing the anxiety of our age with the assurance that beyond the chaos of history lies a throne of light, and every faithful step draws us closer. This vision stirs controversy. Some claim Enoch was the first time traveler, a man pulled from his century into a cosmic timeline of past and future. Others insist it was pure vision, symbolic prophecy meant to reveal God's plan. The truth may be greater than either view. He was lifted into the eternal, where time itself cannot hold. And here we stand, centuries later, debating his journey, yet feeling its pull. The controversy itself proves the power of his story. For if nothing else, Enoch shows us that life is more than breath and death. It is a walk that can break the limits of time. And as we move forward, his journey will lead us into visions of history, judgment, and the destiny of our world, unlocking the next stage of his astonishing prophecy. The vision of history and the end of days. The hidden writings of the Book of Enoch paint a staggering panorama of human history. He speaks of 10 weeks, epochs of time unfolding under the eyes of the Almighty. Each week reveals another layer of destiny, beginning with Adam, stretching through the flood of Noah, and reaching into the final age when all creation will be judged. This is not a vague dream. It is a precise timeline where past, present, and future weave together like threads of light and shadow. Long before Noah built his ark, Enoch foresaw the flood. He warned of corruption filling the earth, of violence rising like a tide, of a day when waters would swallow empires. His words stand as a mirror of history, reminding us that prophecy is not bound to one age, but echoes into every generation. And beyond the flood, his vision reached even farther. He saw the coming of the Messiah, the Anointed One who would bring both mercy and judgment. Imagine a man thousands of years before Bethlehem declaring that a chosen king would rise, that he would sit upon a throne not built by men, that his rule would decide the fate of nations. This is where the resonance with Revelation becomes undeniable. What John saw on the island of Patmos, Enoch had glimpsed in the heavenly courts. Their visions align like two pieces of a puzzle separated by centuries, yet fitting perfectly together. For many, this is unsettling. How could an ancient man see events thousands of years ahead? Was he carried through time? Was he given visions outside the flow of days? Here lies the controversy, and it is here that debate sparks. Is Enoch's prophecy symbolic poetry, or is it literal time travel ordained by God? Share your perspective, because this is more than curiosity. It is about how we understand prophecy itself. In practical terms, Enoch's visions offer a lesson. Just as he foresaw judgment in Noah's day, we too are called to discern the times. Every empire thinks it will last forever. Babylon thought so. Rome thought so. Even modern powers imagine their reign eternal. Yet history proves otherwise. What if we are living in the later weeks of Enoch's vision? What if our generation is closer to the end of the timeline than we dare to admit? This question is not meant to breed fear, but to awaken courage. The lesson of Enoch is that God's justice moves through history, and those who walk faithfully need not tremble. In a world filled with uncertainty, wars, crises, collapsing systems, his prophecy reminds us that nothing is random, everything unfolds under divine design. That realization is healing. It anchors our restless hearts and shows us that even in chaos, history bends toward God's final judgment and redemption. Enoch, the first-time traveler. When people read the visions of Enoch, they often describe him as a seer, a prophet, a mystic. But some whisper something more radical, that he was the first time traveler in human history. His writings read like a journey not only through heaven, but through centuries, across events far beyond his earthly lifetime. To walk with God meant stepping outside the clock. Time, which binds kings and beggars alike, could not hold him. He was lifted into the eternal, and once there, he saw not just what was, but what was yet to come. Think about how scientists today describe time. Einstein told us it bends. Quantum physics hints at multiple dimensions layered like unseen veils. Black holes twist time, making seconds stretch into centuries. In their own language, modern physicists echo what Enoch lived. Time is not fixed. To us, it is a straight line. To God, it is a canvas where all moments exist together. So when Enoch walked with God, he was stepping into that canvas, seeing events as if past, present, and future were laid before his eyes. This thought challenges the way we think about prophecy. Was he simply receiving visions in symbols? Or was his spirit literally transported, standing in the future, watching empires rise and fall, watching the day of judgment approach? The imagery he describes, the Son of Man seated on a throne of glory, angels gathered, books opened, the righteous shining like the sun. These are not the vague mutterings of a dreamer. They are vivid, specific, consistent with later revelations. They read as eyewitness testimony from someone who stood in tomorrow and returned to tell us today. And here lies the hypnotic pull of his story. If Enoch could step outside time, then prophecy is not prediction, but observation. He did not guess what would happen, he saw it. That makes his words carry weight, not as speculation, but as testimony. And what does this mean for us? It means that history is not drifting without purpose. It means that the end times described in Enoch and echoed in Revelation are not fantasies. They are coordinates on God's timeline. And if one man could see them thousands of years ago, how close might we be now? This is the question that heals and unsettles at once. Healing, because it tells us God's plan is real. Unsettling, because it reminds us we must be ready. In our modern world, obsessed with technology and control, the idea of time travel captivates the imagination. But Enoch's story is more than science fiction. It is spiritual reality. To walk with God is to rise above time. The lesson here is deeply personal. We all feel trapped by clocks, by deadlines, regrets of the past, fears of the future. But Enoch's life teaches that when you walk in step with God, time loses its chains. The past cannot haunt you, the future cannot crush you, because eternity holds you. That is the freedom he lived, and that is the freedom offered to us. And so his story calls us to ask, do we see life as a race against time, or do we walk with the eternal, trusting that every moment, past and future, rests in his hands. This is where his legacy speaks most powerfully. Share your thoughts. Was Enoch truly a time traveler, or a prophet given visions beyond comprehension? The conversation matters because in exploring it, we glimpse the mystery of how eternity touches our fragile lives. And as we move forward, the path of his story leads not only to judgment, but also to hope. Not only to endings, but to the possibility of a new beginning, written by the hand of God. The meaning for our time. Enoch's life is not just a relic of ancient scripture. It is a burning message for the present moment. He saw the end times, yet what defined him was not fear, but faith. The Book of Enoch reveals visions of judgment, angels, and the Son of Man coming in glory. But his testimony in Genesis is simple. He walked with God. That is where his power lay, not in knowing the date of the flood, not in glimpsing the Messiah centuries ahead, but in living each day with unwavering trust. This is what makes his story so healing for us today, because in our world, we are haunted by clocks, our schedules, our deadlines, our constant sense of running out of time. Anxiety about the future grips hearts, regret over the past steals joy, and the present moment slips through our hands like sand. Yet Enoch's walk teaches a radical truth. When you walk with God, you step into eternity, where time no longer owns you. Think about this practically. Imagine someone who sees a financial crash coming. He warns people, but the greater gift is showing them how to endure it with peace. That is what Enoch did with history. He saw floods, kingdoms, judgment, and yet he modeled the way to live above fear. This is the personal lesson. The point is not just to know the timeline of prophecy, but to prepare your soul to walk through it. If the flood was coming, Noah built an ark. If the end is coming, our ark is righteousness and faith. This is why Enoch's legacy matters, because his life shows us that preparation is not panic, but intimacy with God. There is also a tender healing here. Many people today chase signs of the apocalypse with dread, searching headlines for proof of the end times, living in constant fear. But fear was not Enoch's story. His visions did not crush him, they transformed him. They made him a prophet of hope, a man lifted from earth without death. If his message was terror alone, he would not have been taken up in glory. Instead, God honored him because his faith was stronger than fear. And this matters deeply to us. Because whether or not you believe we are in the final days, the call is the same. Live faithfully, walk with God, and eternity will carry you beyond every storm. Here is the lesson. The greatest victory is not escaping trouble, but transcending it. Enoch lived in a corrupt world, filled with violence, the same world Noah would later face. Yet instead of despair, he lived in communion with the eternal. His story shows us that the way to endure is not by grasping at control, but by surrendering to trust. In a modern sense, this is like the difference between someone panicking at the news and someone who holds steady because they know their foundation is unshakable. Enoch's foundation was God himself. And this message raises a piercing question for each of us. Are we living as slaves to time, or are we walking with the one who holds time in his hands? This is not a theoretical question. It touches daily life. When fear whispers about tomorrow, when regret chains you to yesterday, will you let those voices rule you, or will you walk in the present moment with faith? This is the secret of Enoch. The man who stepped into eternity did so by living faithfully in the ordinary days. His story also calls us into conversation. Was Enoch truly a time traveler, or was he a witness to divine visions beyond human understanding? Was he transported into the end times, or were the end times brought to him? These questions stir debate, but the deeper point is this. Prophecy is not about curiosity, it is about transformation. The visions of Enoch do not exist to entertain, they exist to awaken. So let us reflect and share. What part of his story speaks to you most? His mysterious journey, his prophecy of judgment, or his simple daily walk with God? Your reflections matter, because together we discover how his message still breathes life into our generation. And so the meaning for our time becomes clear. Whether we live in the first weeks of history or the last, the call remains the same. Walk faithfully, live with courage. Trust that every moment, even the dark ones, are part of a divine timeline that leads to redemption. That is how Enoch speaks to us today, not just as a man lifted beyond death, but as a guide showing us how to live beyond fear. His life is a testimony that righteousness is never wasted, that faith transcends centuries, and that walking with God is the path that carries us through time itself into the eternal embrace of heaven. Enoch's story is not a tale that fades with time. It is a blazing fire that still burns, calling to every soul that dares to listen. He walked with God, and in that sacred walk he stepped into eternity. He glimpsed the end of days. He saw visions that stretched across the ages, and he became a living witness that time itself can bend when the Creator pulls back the veil. Think of what that means for us. In a world drowning in noise, in fear, in endless headlines that shake our faith, the testimony of Enoch is a healing voice reminding us that history is not chaos. It is a carefully written script held in the hands of the Almighty. His visions in the Book of Enoch echo the great prophecies of Daniel, Isaiah, and Revelation. They point to floods, kingdoms rising and falling, and finally the coming of the Son of Man with power and glory. He saw what we fear, and yet he lived with peace. He did not crumble beneath the weight of what was coming. He lived faithfully, day after day, and that faith lifted him beyond death itself. That is the mystery, and that is the lesson. When you walk with God, fear loses its grip, and eternity becomes your home. Imagine what it would be like to stand where Enoch stood, looking not only at the heavens, but also at the unfolding of history. Nations he had never heard of, empires that had not yet risen, the Messiah who had not yet come, all laid before his eyes. The gravity of that vision is overwhelming, and yet it is given to us as a gift, so we can see that God's plan stretches across centuries and still reaches into our lives today. This is not mythology, not a forgotten fragment of apocryphal scripture. It is a call to awaken, a call to live with purpose. If Enoch could walk with God in an age of violence and corruption, what excuse do we have in our time? His life shouts across the centuries that holiness is possible, that righteousness is the true victory, and that even in the darkest generation, a faithful soul can rise above. This is where the story becomes personal. You may feel trapped in your past, weighed down by regrets that seem to chain your soul. Or maybe you are afraid of the future, uncertain about what tomorrow will bring, afraid of wars, collapse, or loss. But Enoch's life tells you something liberating. When you walk with God, time cannot enslave you. The past is forgiven, the future is secure, and the present moment is filled with His presence. That truth is not only powerful, it is healing. It cuts through anxiety like light through darkness. It whispers to your weary heart that you too can step into eternity even as you live your ordinary days. This is why his message is more than history. It is therapy for the soul. And yet, his story also provokes questions that stir debate. Was Enoch truly a time traveler, carried across centuries like a witness from the future? Or were his visions symbolic, heavenly images given to warn and prepare? Some believe he literally stood in the end times, watching the Son of Man judge the nations. Others insist it was prophecy in pure form, truth clothed in vision. The argument continues even today, and that argument is part of the beauty of his story. It refuses to be boxed in. It compels us to wrestle with mystery. And here I turn to you. What do you believe? Was Enoch the first human to see the future with his own eyes? Or was he a prophet whose words transcend time itself? Share your heart in the comments, because your reflection keeps this conversation alive, and through your voice, others may see new light. This is the allure of prophecy. It draws us deeper, not to satisfy idle curiosity, but to awaken faith. Enoch's visions of judgment were not meant to terrify, but to call us higher. He spoke of justice so that the oppressed could hope. He spoke of the coming Messiah so that the faithful could endure. He described the heavens so that the weary could lift their eyes beyond the dust of earth. His message is a reminder that your life is not meaningless, that every step you take in faith echoes into eternity. The path may feel ordinary, but in God's sight, it is extraordinary. Walking with him transforms each moment into part of an eternal journey, and this is why his legacy matters now more than ever. We live in days of great shaking. Empires tremble, technology evolves faster than wisdom, and people search desperately for meaning in an ocean of emptiness. Enoch's voice breaks through that noise, saying, "You were created for more than survival. You were created to walk with the eternal. You were made not to be crushed by time, but to rise above it." The same God who took Enoch by the hand offers his hand to you today. If that truth stirs something in your heart, do not ignore it. Let it lead you into reflection. Let it lift you into hope. Let it remind you that you are not alone in your journey. This is where I speak to you personally. If this message has touched your soul, if it has brought light into a dark day, then I invite you to stay with this journey. Let your voice join in the comments. Tell me what Enoch's story means to you, or challenge it if you must, because every perspective sharpens the truth. And if you feel this video has given something valuable to your spirit, I ask with humility, support this work, not with grand gestures, but with the simple act of liking, subscribing, and sharing. Because every click, every word of encouragement is energy that fuels the creation of more content that carries light into the darkness. It is a way of saying, yes, this story matters. Yes, the word still speaks. Yes, my soul is awake. Even the smallest act of support is not small at all. It is priceless. It is a spark that keeps the flame alive. If you have found healing here, if you have found inspiration, then let us walk together as Enoch walked, step by step, into the eternal story. This channel is more than videos. It is a community of souls seeking light, wrestling with mystery, longing for truth. By staying connected, by adding your voice, you become part of that journey. So let us close with the truth that has carried us through this story. Enoch walked with God, and in that walk, he transcended fear, transcended death, transcended time. That same walk is open to you. You do not need to be a prophet. You do not need to see visions of heaven. You simply need to take the next step of faith right where you are. And as you do, eternity will meet you. That is the hope. That is the healing. That is the gift. If your heart beats a little faster hearing this, if your soul feels awakened, let it not end here. Comment your thoughts, share this message, subscribe to stay close, and let us together uncover the treasures hidden in Scripture that the world has long ignored. With every story, every vision, every mystery revealed, we are not just learning about the past, we are preparing for eternity. Thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and thank you with all my heart for walking this path with me.